Hello there and welcome to my channel. My name is Jimmy Wikman, and in this video I want to talk a little bit about the Atlassian event Team 24 that took place in Las Vegas last week, because it unpacked quite a lot of new things and it has quite a big impact on the people like me, for example, that are working as administrator, or in my case as a platform owner. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what they presented and also what I think about it. And we can pretty much divide this one into a few areas. So if we start with, for example, they started by introducing the Atlassian University, that it is now free, which is nice. It's not something that I have frequently used, but everything that is free is good. And I think that if you're going to have something where you can actually train people, it's good that it's free, because whatever amount of money they probably brought in from that one was probably peanuts compared to the goodwill and the adaptation that they will actually get by having this one being free. So I think that is a very good change that they are making. The other thing that came out was they focused a little bit on, how should we put it? They are now consolidating pretty much everything into one product. So Jira will now be the new common name for a bunch of things. So what they announced was that Jira Software and Jira Work Management will now merge together, but it's actually much more than that, because they are now also taking things from Opsgenie, and they are taking things from Atlas. In fact, they're actually killing Atlas, and they are now merging into one product. And this one, if you saw the presentation, you probably noticed that now suddenly we don't have a top menu in the UI anymore. It's now on the left side. So when I first saw that one, I probably thought, like many others, that, wow, this is a completely new UI. Until I realized that this is just the old one that we used to have a long time ago, when we had the blue background on the sidebar there. And so they have just brought that one back. And they have also changed things around a little bit, but in general they have just switched around the main menu and replaced it now with the side menu instead. But what is interesting is, and they didn't say anything about that one. I don't know if these are considered to be mock-ups, and it didn't look like that, but this is a completely new UI language that they presented also. So I know that they have been working on the UI a little bit, but it's quite a big change from what they have now for what is coming down the line. And so I hope that they will present a little bit more about that one, because I like the new UI. I thought it looked very nice. But we're not going to talk just about the UI. The UI itself is cool, it's nice, it's beautiful. I think it's a step in the right direction, but there's a lot of other things that we need to talk about with this one. So the first one obviously is then that we are now killing basically 4 products and putting it into one. And so Jira will now be the common name, and we'll still have all the other Jiras, Jira Product Discovery and Jira Align and Jira Service Management, but from now on, Jira will be something different that it have actually ever been. So Jira Software has been what people think is Jira, and that one is now changing, because we are now getting something that is more universal, and so it can now be used in more diverse way. And I think that is a good thing. So now you will have all the best parts from Atlas, like goals, and you will also have projects, so I assume, but goals are absolutely going to be in there. And that is one of the things that I thought Atlas did really good, and it's also probably one of the few things that they realized that they could actually reuse. And they're also taking all the best part of Jira Work Management, which was a really good product. And they took things like list that they now have in Jira Software, or in the new Jira, just Jira. And they brought in a bunch of other things also there. So plans is also going to be closer to this product, and it will be a little bit different, that one too. It will now be more aligned to the new navigation system. And they are also taking in, I was a little bit surprised that they are now moving in the Opsgenie stuff, and they are, instead of having that one as its own product, they are now merging it into the Teams part. So the Teams part that actually was part of Atlas, kind of, is now being their own thing, and it's now getting tied very closely to alert management and stuff like that. And also the on-call schedules and things like that are now directly tied to Teams. And I like that. I think that's a good step. And now I just want Teams to actually take over the role that groups used to have. So we can actually have groups being assignable in different areas where we still only have groups. But overall, very tight, very good merger of multiple products into one. Next up, we have one of the biggest focus, I think, of the entire event was AI. They talked about AI for everything. So we're going to see AI everywhere, but they are kind of connecting all of these to a brand new product called Rovo. And Rovo is, it was a little bit vague how it would actually work, but they presented it as a 3-part system, basically. So one is to collect all the information that you have, not just in the Atlassian products, but also in third-party products. For us, for example, SharePoint will be very interesting to actually bring in there, and Microsoft, of course, their products. So you can actually have a sort of a database, an AI-driven database that can actually fetch that information from all of these sources. And the second one part was that they can then give some kind of analysis of this. And the third part was then that you can take action on it. So they introduced kind of an AI agent system, which kind of look interesting. So we're going to dig deeper into that one as soon as I can get my hands on it. And AI in general is very good. They presented many areas where they have AI. So for example, one of the things that I think a lot of people that are working with analytics going to like is that instead of writing SQL queries, they can now use the AI to basically use normal language. And then the AI will spit it out as an SQL query, and then you can fetch the information. It will make things a lot faster, and the threshold for your technical skill will go down dramatically. So it will be the same kind of magic that you have when you do JQL queries, for example, when people want to search for things or set up filters. And also for automations, of course, so you can just write what you actually want to happen, and then the AI will do their best or do its best to actually get that done. So AI was a big thing, and Rovo, the whole concept of being able to fetch all the information that you have in multiple sources and then compile it to something that's easy to consume, that one is going to be really, really interesting to follow, because a lot of people will have a lot of use for that one. Because one of the things that we do a lot in the Atlassian platforms is answering questions. And one of the things that people often ask about is usually processes, and it's information about how we do things, information on how we set things up, information about who is doing what, and also where are we with different things. Different words, so glossaries is usually something that no one actually have, and that is evolved enough to actually be used. And now Rovo can fetch all of that one from any number of sources, presumably, and then present it in a way that is very easy to consume. And I'm assuming also they had a slight introduction about it when you can use it in the portal. So the customers can also find information that you present then, presumably then in Confluence and other sources where you usually have it. So we can answer their questions and kind of start the journey toward a customer chatbot, basically. So Rovo is something that's going to be very interesting, and especially the third part there, when you can actually have virtual agents. So they showed some virtual agents. For example, one could help with the code. So for developers, they asked, for example, how many old toggles do I have for features, for example, feature toggles, and it could then list a number of feature toggles that you had in your code, and then you can ask the AI then to remove them and basically change your code for you. So that one was also very interesting. And you also had other bots that can answer different questions, and you can have all kinds of bots. So depending on how that one is set up, I can envision that people will have this one as products that will come up in the marketplace. So more virtual agents that you can then purchase and put into your production system to help with different things. So this one is going to be really, really interesting to see where it's going and how much it can actually do, because it looked like it could do quite a lot. So that was all about AI. And the next thing that they talked about that was kind of just briefly put out there, it didn't get a bunch of attention, if I'm going to be totally honest. And that was, of course, the new Atlassian Guard that will replace now both Atlassian Access and Beacon, the prototype thing that will actually scan for different behavior that could be considered to be a warning that you should look at. So this one is now going to merge into one product that will be now called Atlassian Guard. And one of the things I liked about that one is the classification of data. Because that is something that we sorely need, and being able to put different policies on different classifications is something that I think Atlassian just started with that journey, because I think that one can actually be built to be one of the most important things that you can have probably in a large company where these things are very important to have. So that one looked very interesting also. And then one thing that they didn't talk so much about in the keynote, but that they had a whole session for, was the new developer experience. It's clear that this is a very big focus area for Atlassian. And considering that they now took Jira software away and replaced it now with a more generic tool, I think they will focus on getting the developer part, or the developer users now into this new developer experience. And that is where they're going to focus on making sure that developers feel very at home and that they love that product. And that one is, of course, connected then to Compass. And just before the event, they actually purchased a company and that is dealing with API documentation, automatic and also manual one. So that's going to be very interesting. But they also had a bunch of things in the presentation there for developers. So, for example, they are now collaborating with several of the editors, the EDIs, where they actually will bring in the AI into that one and help the developers directly into their EDI. And that alone is going to be a complete game changer for a lot of developers. And that keynote or that presentation actually had so many things that it was kind of hard to unpack everything, because they are really, really building now a developer experience. This one is going to be really, really powerful, and it's going to be huge, I think. I think this is the most, how should we put it, most impressive experience for developers that I have seen in any product. So this one, I really look forward to seeing where they are taking it. And if you're wondering what kind of features are we talking about here, they are, if you know what Compass is, they are now moving in, for example, the Compass components into the development projects or into Jira, as it will just be called. So you have a direct connection there. You have more information that comes from the new integration now with Opsgenie, for example. So you will have the team connections, you will have then different alerts, you will have the little overview. That was kind of nice, where you can see all your deploys, you can see all your alerts, you can see all the incidents connected to it, you will see all the changes that you have made, and so on. So this one looks really, really interesting, and they are just scratching the surface yet. And they are even hinting that something will come in the future that will even have agents in Compass that will actually help you write code directly into Compass. So you can actually do things in there, and you can have the virtual agents that can actually help you clean out different things, and it will help you with your deploys, and it's really, really nice. So if you haven't seen that one yet, I strongly suggest you go and check that one out. One thing that is concerning me though is, and they presented this almost at the beginning of the keynote there, and that is, and they did it kind of like they wanted to impress us, and that is that they last year then they presented, or they pushed out more than 1,000, or the number was actually 1,000 features. So 1,000 features have actually gone out to customers like us, and they had around 8,000 deploys with new code every month, and that averaged then to, I think, a new deploy every 5 or 6 minutes, and a new feature every 2 or 3 of them every day. And divided then on all the products, that means that we probably get around 2 new features every week for every product. That is a lot of code to push out, and in a situation where Atlassian is, where they are heavily distributed, and also where the pace is very high, and also where they are working with an agile mindset, where it requires a lot of communication. That puts a lot of, they have to be very, very, very strict about how they work, and we have already seen that they are pushing out quite a lot of incidents. So we have had quite a lot of incidents just this year, for example, and last year was also quite a lot. And so that is what happens when the human factor comes into play. And so I wrote an article on LinkedIn where I asked, is this a good thing that they are pushing out so much code all the time? And how are we supposed to handle this one within our organization? I mean, if you have an organization that have many Atlassian products, you will get maybe 10 new features every week. That's a lot of things. For one thing, for you to learn, and for the other thing is, how are we going to have time to tell everyone about these new features and train them how to use them properly? And also, what happens when these new features are not new features, but they are changes to existing features that could actually impact the way you work? So I have a full article. I will link to that one in the description below, so you can read that one if you want. But I think it's a valid question to raise. How will this affect us having this high pace? And now that we are seeing such a dramatic change in the UI, and this one happens once in a while, so there's nothing we can do about that one. I think I've done at least 4 different UI changes now in the past 10 years or so. Big changes, and these one are very difficult to handle, because when these UI changes happens, we need to inform our users and tell them what's going on. So otherwise they will get confused, and we get angry people that will tell us that everything is bad again. So this is going to be something that we really, really need to consider and think about, and how do we handle these things when they happen, and how often is actually in good pace to actually give new features like this. So that was a little bit about what I'm thinking about this one, and my general feeling about this Team 24 that we had was that it shows a few things that Atlassian are really focusing on. So one thing is that they are trying now to consolidate multiple products. So we're seeing, for example, they are killing off Beacon, for example. That one will no longer exist. Instead, they will merge it with Atlassian Access, and we get a new product. So 2 products becomes 1, more value for the customer. And of course, when we get more value, they bump it up. So we get, now we have to buy premium to get the Beacon features. We also see that now that they are merging together Jira software and Jira Service Management, that one becomes a new product, basically. And they also, Opsgenie has been they purchased this a long time ago, and they haven't really done anything with it. And now they are really pushing things away from it. So it will be interesting to see what they are going to do with the app, for example, with the mobile app. and also what features will still be in Obsidian, because they have already built in most of this one in either Jira Service Management or in Teams. So we'll see. I think they will kill off Obsidian as a product soon, and they have already killed off Atlas, which was good, I think, because I feel like it was an experiment. It was an odd product. It didn't really have any proper use. It was basically, for me, it was mostly an MVP. We're trying out a broadcasting tool and see what we can do with it. So they killed off some features of it, and they saw that goals was something that people really wanted. It was really good, and that they had good use for. So I'm happy that they killed that one off and brought it into as a standard feature in the new Jira instead. But overall, it feels like they are trying to take these things that they have now bought, and that they feel like they have been kind of like outliers, and they are not really part of the product anymore. So for me, I'm still wondering what they will do with status page and how that one will connect to the portals and also to Jira itself. So that one will be interesting, see if they're going to try to do something similar there. I also think that another thing that they are doing is that they're focused on a lot of AI, and they put a lot of faith into AI, and they are really putting a lot of money in there. And I think that's a good thing, because the things that have come out so far are pretty amazing, and they are really helpful, and it will actually speed things up quite a lot. And based on what I've seen this year, if we compare it with last year they introduced it and they had some good features, but it wasn't revolutionary. It was nice to have, but you can live without them. What I've seen this year, I'm not sure if that is the case anymore, because this is now going to be so ingrained and so normal as part of the Atlassian ecosystem that you want to have it. I'm missing it already. I don't even have it yet. So I think that's a good thing that they are doing there. Now, there are a few things I was hoping that they will pick up, and maybe they will. I did not see anything about it. So Jira Service Management was the big focus last year, and they did not really focus much on that one this year. And the biggest problem I feel that Atlassian have at the moment are the portals. And now I'm part of the testing program now, where you can have multiple portals, and that one is nice. It's not bad at all, but it does not really fulfill the actual need that I have, for example, and I know many others have, and that is I need to build from the outside in. I need to first build a good customer experience on the outside towards my customers, and then I will build the structure on the inside. And they don't need to match. Right now they have to match. You have to organize your Jira Service Management projects based on how it should be on the outside, because you're basically just reflecting your structure or projects towards your customers. And that is a terrible way to have it. So I've been using Refined, for example, and I really wish that Atlassian would either buy Refined or take some of the key elements there, because we need a CSM, we need to have a content management system, a CMS, so we can actually build real UIs and real communication towards our customers. And we cannot just having an automatic mirroring of a project structure to just be presented to a customer. That's not going to work. We need to have this one properly, so we can have pages basically, and build it with the right communication and with the right request types. So, for example, if I have a product, I want to have a product page where I can have reach sales. You can report an incident. If you want to reach out to, if you want to buy it, if you want to reach sales, for example, that one needs to have one. If you have a communication, you want to be partner. If you want to suggest a change, whatever it is, everything should be able to live on the same page. But on the inside, it should go to very different projects. So you can have teams that are focusing, for example, on incidents of a certain type for that product. Maybe it's the API that you have a team for, and the other one is for the UI, and so on. And you have sales, but maybe you have 3 different sales organizations and that handles different things. So new customers can be one, and you can have payment that you want to complain about payments could be completely different, and so on. So I was hoping that they will talk a little bit more about the portals, but that is the weakest point at this that I see it right now, that they need to really address. Another thing that I was a little bit disappointed about was that they had about 2 minutes about assets. And what they presented was really, really different from what we have today. So the UI had elements there that we never had before, and they talked about that they had purchased AirTag, for example, and that there were a lot of new connectors that we could actually have, but they didn't go any deeper into that one. They didn't talk about automations. They didn't talk about anything else that had to do with assets. They didn't show us the new layout, how it would look now with the new navigation system. And for me, who's working a lot with assets, that was a little bit disappointing. I would hope that they would have more information about assets, and at least that they could show the new UI and present a little bit more things. Maybe that will come later. I don't know. Maybe they weren't ready to actually show it. The new connectors, however, are awesome, and I can't wait to get my hands on those, because one of the things that I talked to Atlassian about is that going from data center where you have a bunch of connectors for Intunes and you have for AVS and all of these things, they don't exist in cloud. And so you had to build them from scratch. And now all of a sudden you have now, what was it, 50 or so connectors to some of the most common platforms that we actually need. So I think a few marketplace vendors will be very sad now that their apps will probably die out, because now we have it built into assets. But I wish that they would have shown a little bit more, and I really wish that they would give a little bit more love to it in general, because if they want to compete with ServiceNow, for example, they need to have a good asset management system, and they can't just have that one on the back burner. So I'm hoping that they are building something amazing there, and we're just not ready for it yet. But I would have hoped that they would show a little bit more there, so we could all enjoy the magic there as well. So that was a little bit of my impressions from it. I feel like we are now moving into a new phase of Atlassian. They are now stepping up quite a lot. This new change that they are making, consolidating everything into one massive product, that is good for 2 reasons. One is that you will now have a more unified tool set. It will feel more natural to work with goals, and it will feel more natural working with development, easier to connect, and it feels more natural also for management activities and stuff like that. And the second thing is that we no longer need to have 4 licenses. We will soon be able to have just one, and that alone will make it more viable, because one of the problems is when you have such an extremely big flora of products and you pretty much need to have all of them, then the cost is going to go up a lot. And now when they have reduced the number there, even if they have another one of those 15% or whatever they have now increase of cost, then it feels more motivated, because now I get so much more for my money. And also they are now shifting up towards AI, and that alone is going to put them in the lead, I think, with a lot of things. And the way they are now getting closer now to the developers, making AI part of their job. They are already working with AIs in their IDEs to get help with the code. And now to bridge that gap and getting closer to their code with the Atlassian AIs, it's going to be really good. So, and with API documentation out of the box, Compass, the new experience, I feel like the Atlassian tool set now is much more closer to a developer experience than it has ever been. It's now gone from a task management system to full-fledged process flow. So one thing I'm still waiting for is to see what they are going to do with Align, because I feel that Align is still too far away from the other tools. It's still impossible to get an overview of what it actually does. You cannot test it yourself. And I need to address that one, because adaptation of a tool that no one actually knows what it is, unless you worked in a company that basically bought the pig in a bag and just hoped that it was not as bad as they thought, that's not going to work for very long. And I have friends and colleagues that are working are not colleagues anymore. They are friends now. I've now left the industry of being a consultant, but for those who still work as consultants, I hear that selling Align is just as difficult as it was when I was a consultant, because how are you going to sell something you don't even know what it is and that you don't have the opportunity to actually play around with? So they need to address that one, because when it comes to management, and especially portfolio management, then Atlassian does not have a good tool for it. Plans is just a plan. Even though it's awesome, it's still just on an operational level. And you don't have things like budgets, you don't have things like resource allocations or people allocations. You don't have any of the things that people need on a portfolio level. And like it or not, all companies still work within a 12-year cadence. They have to pay taxes. They have budgets on an annual basis because of that one, and they need portfolio management. Otherwise, they cannot operate. And as much as they will have annual budgets for most of their products, there's still investments that they need to make. And if they don't have that in Jira, then they're going to go to another tool. It's as easy as that. And then it's going to hurt the rest of us who try to integrate this one, and we're trying to mix the languages and see, can we have OPEX and CAPEX in Jira? How do we do that? How do we align people that wants to have story points with actual hours so we can measure the cost, because all people have an hourly cost, and so on. So Align, it needs to get closer, and they could do what they done with Opsgenie and Atlas and Beacon, and they can just cannibalize it and bring it into another, maybe bring it into plans and make plans something else, like Jira Plans or something else, like a full-fledged product. But we are still very much lacking that financial aspect of the Atlassian ecosystem. And one of the other things that they are missing is test tools. We have everything but test, right? We have deployment, we have build, everything in the build steps we have. We have requirement management, we have everything, but we don't have test for some reason. So maybe buy one of the bigger test vendors or build a new one. It's not rocket science, right? So that one could also be interesting to see where they're going with that, or if they're just going to keep it the way it is and letting the 4 or 5 big vendors continue to sell their products and as add-ons instead. So we'll see. Now, I'm a little bit sad that I was not in Las Vegas this year. I hope that I will be able to be there next year, and I hope that next year will be a little bit less, how should we put it, world turning, because this one was a big one this year. It's actually hurting me a little bit, because I'm planning now moving to the cloud with my company, and because of all the changes, I now have to postpone it because I don't want my customers or my users now then to have the experience of changing the UI twice and changing every way we work twice. So I need to wait for this one to actually roll out, and I'm hoping that I don't have to do that next year. Next year, I hope I will just have more awesome stuff that I can plug in rather than completely revamp and redo. But overall, I think this year's event was one of the biggest ones. I've been watching these for many years now, and this one felt like it had the biggest impact of all the ones that have ever been, at least the one I've seen. And I look forward to see the future now, I'm very very stoked and very motivated now to see, and inspired, I guess is the word I'm looking for, to see what happens next. So that was my impressions of this year's event. I'm very eager to hear how you felt about what you watched and what kind of information you picked up that I missed. And until I hear from you again, I hope that you will have an awesome day and great week.